All right, we're going to start. How to suck at your religion. I had an interesting morning. I had a fight with an apple tree and lost. And as a result, I have a 3-inch gash on my forehead, which I'm trying to hide with my quickly receding hairline. So far, so good. Thank you, Carol Ann, for administering to me medically this morning. That was awesome. Today, we're going to start a 4-part series, and it's based on the cue cards that you guys gave me. I guess it was about 4 months ago, with suggested topics for Sunday morning. So one of the topics was just to talk about kind of a distinction between the Christian faith and religion, which tends to have a bad name, especially the term organized religion. At Cafe Church, we like to describe ourselves as disorganized religion. Okay, that's how we like to do it. So we're not organized religion, we're disorganized religion. We're going to do it in 4 parts. Firstly, we're going to talk about trying to work your way to heaven. Jeffrey, Ruby, yay! Jeffrey, I love the shades, man.
Rock and roll.
Cool. Man, future's so bright, he's got to wear shades. Okay, good. Part 2 is entitled "Look Down, Way Down at Others." So the sense that, high and mighty, that kind of piece of it. Hypocrisy is another part of that. So oftentimes when people criticize religion, it's because they tend to view people who are part of a religion as people who look down on them. That's the reason why they resent it. Part 3 is talk, don't walk. So you've heard, talk, walk the walk. We're going to talk about that. Hypocrisy is a big part of that one. And then part 4 is it's all about me. And a lot of religions are very self-centered. So this whole idea that, you are the world and you're in complete control of your future. And to be frank, I think it's a bit of a reflection of our culture, which is a culture which encourages selfishness, trying to get ahead in your careers, or just to climb up the corporate ladder, and competitiveness and all those things that can happen in a modern sort of democratic progressive economy. It's how it functions. It's a very selfishly driven system. In fact, I've seen several posters, this phrase, "it's all about me." And it's in regards to financial planning, and in one case it's in regards to makeup, and cosmetics. So the message is, you are the central, it's all about you, right? So that's the part 4. So those are the 4 things we're going to look at in regards to sucking at your religion. And this week we're going to look at the issue of trying to work your way to heaven. And some people in the Christian church that I know would subscribe to this t-shirt, basically. Oops, hang on. That t-shirt. Jesus is coming, look busy. When I was starting out my work career many years ago, after I graduated grade 12, I went to work at Kmart. It doesn't exist anymore, okay, for good reason. Okay? I didn't appreciate it then. There were a lot of things that frustrated me about working at Kmart. And in hindsight, I realized that's probably why Kmart doesn't exist anymore, because they never did fix those things.
Kmart sucks.
It sucked. Although I have to say I had a great boss. My boss was excellent. She was awesome. But as a store, it kind of sucked. And I remember that about every 3 months, the head office folks would show up. And the store went into a complete panic for like 3 days. Because they knew they were going to, be investigated or checked out, or should go through files, and are your displays right, and all this stuff, right? The head office visits were feared. And I think to some extent this phrase would have been true. The head managers come and look busy, right? You want to be on your best behavior when the boss was there.
HR is coming.
HR is coming, yes, indeed. Yeah, HR, yes. Yeah. So I love this t-shirt. I got to get one though, because I don't have one. I got to get that one. I have a lot of Jesus, well, this one, right? Jesus-themed t-shirts. The latest one I got was from Vicky, which was an awesome one. A nice catch up with Jesus. It was good. So I got to get this one. So some people I know have lived by this motto: Jesus is coming, look busy. I remember once we were doing a thing called Leadership Development Program. We haven't done it for about 6 years. We are going to do it this fall at church. It's for anybody who's interested in being involved in ministry at Cafe. And it's kind of a higher level course. They'll run every couple of weeks for a few hours and just talk about why we're here and what we're doing. But one year I was running it, and I asked the question. I said, because I say we're disorganized religion. We don't have a lot of formal programs at Cafe, right? There's not something happening every night of the week for everybody. That's not how we run here. We're more about community and just natural, right? So I said, what's a healthy level of, let's say, church outings in a week? Right now, I expect to get answers like 3 or 2 or 5, maybe 6 on the high end. One couple said 18. And they were serious. They had just come from a church in another city, not in the city. And they were in everything. Missions committee, youth committee, worship music, worship rehearsals, small groups, married, like they were out to 18 events a week. And I said, you're kidding, right? And they go, oh no, we're serious. So Jesus is coming, look busy doesn't work. Right? That's not a good approach to take. At that point you cease to be a human being and you're a human doing. And that's a key theme we're going to look at today. So today what I want to do is look at how religion sucks from the perspective of the work required to realize its promises. Now, I will say that in the Christian faith, there is a role for work or works, but it has to be taken in a broader context, which we're going to look at today. There are many religions, though, which are religions of work. Basically, you do a whole bunch of stuff, and you kind of earn brownie points, and that's how you work your way into heaven. So the Jehovah's Witness faith is set up that way. They're within certain streams of Islam as well. There's this idea that if you do one good thing, it cancels out 10 bad things. So what's your motivation for doing it? Well, it's like get rid of 10 bad things they did. Or you can be even more Machiavellian and say, oh, I'd like to do a bad thing. I'd like to do 10 bad things. Well, I know, I'll do 10 bad things, then I'll do one good thing to make up for it. As you can see, this is not the kind of behavior that's necessarily good for the well-functioning of either you or society. So many religions have this idea of things you need to go through. And in fact, Judaism did as well. Judaism had the law. The initial law was the 10 Commandments given to Moses that the people were to follow. And then over the years, if you read through Leviticus and so on, more rules were added. And then the Jewish officials, that wasn't enough. So they created more books and books and books of rules. So, for example, working on Sunday. Oh, well, we got to define what work is. If you're not allowed to work on Sunday, what's work? Are you allowed to make food? Are you allowed to, if someone cuts himself, you put a Band-Aid on him, does that work? Or just let them bleed? You know? So they created thousands and thousands of rules to govern how people live. And this, so this is, you have to understand, this is the history of the Christian faith, right? The Christian faith is the Judeo-Christian faith. It started with Judaism. And that was a big part of the Old Testament, was the struggle that the Israelites had to try and live up to God's standard. And oftentimes they ended up like following rules rather than following God. And that's the pitfall. So that's what we're going to look at today. We'll do that by talking about works in the first place. Then we're going to look at a biblical story of a case study, if you will. And we'll talk about some application of that, and then we'll do a challenge time like we usually do. But I need to start with a review. So what did we look at last week? Anybody remember? Who was here? It's a color.
Blues.
Blues. Who said that? Sarah. See, she's got a notebook. Okay, good. Sarah, I still have 3 journals left. If anybody wants them, they're here. Okay, you can take them. All I ask is that you use it for spiritual purposes. So take notes at church or your own devotions, wherever they're here. They're free. Dave, you want to?
Yes.
So there's 2 more here if you want them. And the reason Sarah, well, she has a sharp mind to start out with, but she also takes excellent notes, which I encourage you to do. Yeah. So we looked at the blues last week. What are causes of the blues sometimes for people?
Depression.
Depression. Okay. So mental illness stuff. Yep.
Bad circumstances. in
Bad
life.
circumstances. Very good. What else?
Health.
Health.
Baby blues.
Financial problems. Absolutely. Yep.
Depression.
Yep. That's a mental illness. Yep. What else?
Life circumstances.
Yep.
Weather?
Yes, absolutely. Seasonal affective disorder is a condition people get, especially in the winter. They don't get out enough, then the weather gets them depressed. But I'll tell you, when I was growing up in St. John, New Brunswick, one summer we had a summer of 57 days in a row of no sunshine. We had fog, rain, cloud, fog, rain, cloud, fog, rain, cloud, or some combination thereof. That was depressing. Like, that'll give you the blues, right? You never get to the beach in the whole summer. Okay, good. That was excellent. So we looked at a bunch of causes of the blues. Another one was loneliness. So people feeling like they're on their own, right? No friends or family or support. Okay, and then we looked at a passage from Scripture. And does anyone remember what that passage was about or what the passage was?
Matthew 11:48.
Of course she does. She doesn't remember. She knows because she wrote it down. It's a great lesson there, okay? Now, not Sarah, though, because I know Sarah's got the answer there. Does anyone know what that passage said? What was that passage about?
Wasn't it something that he didn't want to live? Something about
That was the week
That was
before.
before.
That was Joe. You're right though. He was so depressed he didn't want to be alive. Anybody remember what was the verse again, Sarah?
Then Jesus said, or do you want me to read it or just tell you?
Tell us the number first.
Okay, Matthew 11:28 and 29.
Yeah, okay. So anybody remember what that passage was about?
Yeah.
What do you remember, Holly? You're looking on the screen. Okay, go ahead. Give it to us, Holly. There is an advantage to being on the AV desk. You see the next slide and the one that's up. So go ahead, Holly. Tell us all about it.
Then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are, I didn't say that word.
Weary.
Weary and carry heavy, what's that word?
Burdens.
Burdens, and I will give the rest to take my yoke.
Yep.
And will not let you live backward and follow and challenge in a heart you will find the rest of your soul."
Rest for your soul. Okay, so this passage is where Jesus is telling us how we can, there it is there, experience that inner peace that we seek. And oftentimes when people have the blues or they're feeling down, they're not at rest, they're not at peace. There's something disturbing them, right? And we talked about a bunch of things that might be. So things get us down, and Christ tells us that He's the answer for that. So that was last week. So now we're going to move into this week. Okay, what are some good works people have done for you in the past? If we're talking about works, yes, Sarah?
Like, what do you mean works? Like the good things I've done?
Yeah.
Okay, well, my family took me to rehab. My
Awesome.
mom drove me up and supported me, came to visit me there,
Okay.
and it was amazing.
Okay, good,
Of course
fantastic.
they did that. Yeah.
Excellent, yeah. What else? And life-changing, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in every way, yeah. Kathleen? Okay, so a couple of shady characters from Cafe went to Kathleen yesterday and put in air conditioners for her, so yeah. So he was the other shady character, by the way, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Ruby?
The church community cooked and gave us, prepared some food.
Yes.
Took care of Jeffrey. And
Yeah, at a time when you were very focused on other things, and praise God, Darren is able to be here today, and I mean, obviously you're still very busy, but we're kind of over the sort of crisis
Yes.
point, and the church can help people do that, right? That's part of what we do. Chris, you had a thing?
Make a lot of meals.
Make meals, right? And that doesn't matter whether you're talking about bringing soup in on Sunday, which is a good work people do here, or whether you're hosting a barbecue at your house, or just have people over for dinner, whatever it is, right? Those are all-
They make meals when Cindy and Jenny had died.
Right, for you.
They sent it over to us.
Right, yeah, so people, that's part of how we minister each other, right? People going through a difficult time, having a meal means you don't have to worry about that. That just takes the pressure off people and they feel that love and theater.
I have a household help with housework and
Okay.
cooking and different things.
Sure, yeah. Okay, the things we physically can't do, or maybe an example might be, say, taxes. Some people have a real hard time with taxes, but if you know how to do taxes, then you can help them do their taxes, right? Because they just don't understand how to do it. So using our talents and our gifts to help each other out, right? That's part of how we can do good works for people. Okay. What are some possible motivations for people doing their, I put in quotation marks, good work?
Just wanting to genuinely help.
Absolutely. And that's whether or not they're Christian. There are lots of people out there who aren't Christians who are actually very help, like they just have a desire to help people, right? Okay, what else?
Gain your favor.
To gain your favor. So is that kind of almost a manipulative? Or, yeah, so that's what we're talking about here, right? Yeah. Sometimes people have ulterior motives.
Oh.
Okay? So there's a great expression that says, where there's a will, there's a family. Okay? So when someone dies, right? Yes, Galen. Is in secret. Very good. There's actually a scripture verse that speaks to that very point. So when possible, do it in secret. So if you give $1 million to Kingston General Hospital to build a new wing, let's say I did that and I call it the Steve Fritz Millet is awesome wing of the Kingston General Hospital. I'm not really doing that in secret, right? I'm not doing that in secret, right? I have an opportunity, though, an alternative approach would be to write a check for $1 million and say I don't want anyone to know about this, right? Except for Revenue Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, drop an
That's
E.
only cost me $1 million.
Okay.
Drop an E.
Drop an E.
Yeah, because there's a Davies where you just.
Oh, yeah, the Davis swing. We'll go down there one night with a ladder. We'll fix that up. Yes, Billy.
Steve, ever since I got out of trouble with the law, I go around talking to young people
Yep.
about the dangers of drinking and driving and using drugs and to stay away from bullies and to get an education.
So you're helping them with
and
advice.
to work hard.
Yeah, you're working,
Like I
because
did.
you've been around for a couple of years, you got experience, and you can share that advice with other people, right? Yeah, that's being helpful. Jeffrey.
For money.
For money! Some people do it for money. By the way, that is a very sharp hairstyle you have right now. You were like hipster, dude. Man, I love that hairstyle. Did you do that, Ruby, or what's the deal?
I know, it just, lots of hair in the summer.
Man, it looks good. It looks good. Yeah, I wish I had that kind of hair. Peter.
I'd like to just help people. I don't even, like, I see they're in trouble sometimes. I will look and ask if I can help them.
Okay, and what do you think is the reason that you feel that way?
Well, I do that so they can get in the right direction which way to go.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else in your life that's causing you to do that?
Because people help the church and stuff, just help me so much. I like helping other people.
So it's part of your faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's a very important thing. Oftentimes, people do it as not because they're going to gain anything, or it's because they're not doing it because they like it. They're doing it because they want to help somebody, right? In Christ. So they feel that God's calling them to do this for them, right? Very good. Some people can do it to get glory for themselves, right? Some people do it to get a tax break, because in Canada, if you donate to a charitable institution, you get a tax break. Sometimes it's because it makes them feel good, which is kind of a form of selfishness. So I'll give you an example. Oftentimes, like when I'm with coworkers and stuff, they'll put money, like if someone's sitting on the street, they'll give them, say, $2 or whatever and throw it in a hat, right? And once I was with a very wealthy coworker. She made, between her and her husband, they probably made $800,000 a year. Okay? She bought a Winnebago so she could take her 7 dogs to dog shows. This woman had lots of money. Okay? She was a very wealthy woman. So one day we were in Ottawa and she threw a couple of bucks into the hat, of this person who was on the street. And so we ended up having a conversation about this. And I said, well, like, why do you do that? She goes, well, it makes me feel good. And I'm going like, you got $800,000. You just bought a Winnebago for your 7 dogs? And you're feeling good about $2. Okay. She was a sweetheart. I love her. She's not a follower of Christ. We pray for her. But it's just this idea that, well, you know what? I don't need to know this person's name. I don't need to have a conversation with them. I don't need to invest in them. I'm not going to have them to dinner, and I'm not going to invite them for a sleepover. I'm just going to put $2 in, and I feel better. Right? Like, seriously. Yes, Paul.
This guy comes up Princess Street every year, he's for Princess, he gets $20 in Graham Street.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
the guy comes around at Christmas too and gets gift cards out. Whoever
Yeah.
comes around the church.
Yeah.
And I wasn't homeless at the time, but I was
Yeah.
talking with all the people, like my friends.
Yeah.
He comes up and gives like $20 gift certificate
Yeah.
to Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
To every one of us. And I said, oh, I'm not homeless. He goes, it's okay. Merry
Yeah.
Christmas. And yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone who does that is operating from that motivation. I'm just saying that sometimes that could be a motivation. It's a way of assuaging their guilt for not doing something bigger. Yes. Again. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yep. Yeah, it's hurting for them to give. Whereas if Bill Gates gave me $1 million today, I bet you he wouldn't even know. If his accountant took $1 million out of his account and gave it to me, Bill Gates would probably not even notice that $1 million was missing. Okay?
There's a saying that, like, I don't know if it's $1 million, but if he
Yeah.
dropped it, he could make it back before he even picked it up.
There you go. Yeah. I believe that.
$1 million. Like,
Man.
he's worth so much, and interest upon the interest that he
Yeah.
has already in the bank.
Yeah.
It's like if he dropped $1 million,
He
he'd
would.
be walking because by the time he picked it up,
He's made it back. I'm not in that. Maybe 50 cents to do that. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. There are many different reasons why people do good works, and it's really most of the time it's between them or them and God as to whether their motivations are pure and genuine or whether they have an ulterior motive, right? Okay, so we're going to now look at a biblical perspective from Luke chapter 10. It's a fascinating story, and I'm going to read it out to you. But before I do that, here's a photo that was taken on that day. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, a painting, an interpretation. What is this story about? Anybody know this from the photo?
Martha.
Yeah, and who? Mary and Jesus, right? So Mary, Martha, and Jesus are together. Now Mary and Martha are two sisters. What has happened is Jesus and his disciples are traveling around, and they come to this village where Mary and Martha live, and I guess they're invited to stay. And, what's that? In Luke, it doesn't specifically mention which town it was in. It may reference later where they're from. Okay, I'll check it.
He visited quite a bit.
Yeah, all it says in Luke is they came to a village, but it may say later where in another passage that Mary and Martha came from there. I will check that. So they come to this village where Mary and Martha live. They're invited into her home. Now, imagine this. Justin Bieber comes to Kingston. Okay? And you get a phone call from their agent, and the agent says, hey, Justin Bieber wants to go to dinner at your house. What do you say? No thanks. Okay. Laura, who would you, if a famous person were to come to dinner at your house, who would it be? Okay, B.B. King. He's dead. That would be a real miracle if he came. But some celebrity or politician who's alive right now, who would you bring? Who would you like to invite?
Thanks, Sinatra.
Hey? He's dead. Some people think he's still alive. So that's
Stephen Harper.
Stephen Harper. Okay.
Harley's got one.
Go ahead, Harley.
My mom would probably like to bring Mike Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Holmes. Yeah. Okay. And have him stay for a week. Yeah, and fix your house up. Okay, good. So I think most of us, though, it would be natural if there's someone we respected and knew who was going to come for a visit, we probably put a little extra effort into making sure that, everything was squared away, right? Like we might make sure we cleaned up and tidied, or maybe have a special meal or whatever, right? That would be a natural human response. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But that's basically what's happened here, because, Jesus and the disciples have been traveling around, and he's become a bit of a celebrity in the sense, not because he wanted to be, but the things he's doing, people are hearing about, and it's created a buzz, right? So, yes, Sarah.
I just want to know what we're reading. Luke chapter 10. What?
Oh, verses. I'm going to read from 38 to 42.
Okay.
Okay. But in the preceding verses, it talks about what's going on, like the buzz and stuff that's being created as Jesus goes around and does all this stuff he's doing. So. These two ladies are obviously excited to have him at their home, and this is what the story says. All right, so this is from Luke chapter 10. It says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Does this sound like a sibling discussion at all? No. This never happens in families, right? No. Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. Okay? So that's the story. And I want to home in on this one verse. The last verse there. But the Lord said to her, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. So my question to you is this. What is Jesus really saying in this passage about Mary and Martha that we need to understand as followers of Christ? Yes, Vicki. Okay, very good. And here's the thing, right? So if Laura brought Mike Holmes to visit, and Mike says, listen, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about home renovations. Laura goes, listen, I'm too busy. I got to do the salad. And then I got to get the juice out. Oh no, the potatoes are overcooked, right? What is Laura going to learn about fixing homes from Mike Holmes? Nada, right? Nothing, because you're so busy doing a bunch of stuff. It's not inherently evil stuff, right? that you lose the opportunity to actually learn those things. And what Vicki said is absolutely right. She's wrapped up in busyness of life and missing out on an opportunity to have a first-hand conversation with the Son of God, right? Who they've been anticipating. So that's very good. Yeah. What else? What else can we learn from these two ladies?
Me?
Yes.
These are two ladies, I feel like they're like me.
How's that?
Because every time I do the dishes, I always complain about it.
So you're more of a Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hands up if you're a Martha, and I mean guys too, right? Who's the Martha? Who are the Marthas in this crowd? Just love to be busy and fluttering around, okay? In life, in general. Okay, who's the Marys? Show me hands up for the Marys. Who are the Marys in this place? Bit of both? Okay. I think sometimes you got to be a Mary and sometimes you got to be a Martha. Don't be a Martha Stewart though, okay? Because she is an extreme Martha. You know, like 56 Christmas dinner recipes for the holidays. I'm sorry, I'm doing one. It's pancakes. That's it, right? Like, when her magazine used to come out, I used to get tired looking at the cover. Like, really? You must pay people to do this because no real person has the time to do all this crap that you're telling us to do in your book. Now, she ended up in jail, so she got to relax a little bit later, and then, she got out, right? Because she wasn't entirely honest with the Internal Revenue Service about where all her money was coming from, I guess. And anyways. So, yeah, don't be a Martha Stewart, especially. What's that?
I think it was insider trading.
Yeah, insider trading. Oh, that's what it was. You're right. Yeah, that's right. It was insider trading on stocks. Yes, you're right. So, what else did we learn from this passage, this story?
You have to stop and listen to what Jesus has to say.
Okay, so you need to build time in to stop and listen. So I told you last week I'm doing this course called Spiritual Formation through Tyndale. And I had to sit still for an hour. I was supposed to do it last week. I didn't end up doing it. A bunch of stuff happened. But I am going to do it this week because I got a good clear week.
So is it 2 hours this week?
It'll be an hour anyways. And the hardest thing for me is to actually sit still. It just drives me crazy. But that hour I did 2 weeks ago, like everything just stopped. I didn't have to worry about home renovations or my job or anything else. I just had an hour sitting down by the lake and enjoying Kingston for what it was worth, right? And even like this week, a couple times, rather than just drink my coffee and scorch it down and then run off and do stuff, I actually went out on our porch there and sat down around our chair and just enjoyed nature, right? Like that's great. I love to do that. But here's the danger, right? Is in life we get sucked into busyness. And it used to be, for example, that there was in Canada you worked a 6-day work week and Sunday was off and nothing was open. Nothing was open. What's happened over time is with the changes to legislation. Basically, everything can be open all the time. What that means is if you're working, say, a part-time job or even a full-time job, you probably have to work some weekends. That's the position we use in with the LCBO. So this whole idea of having a Sabbath rest or a day off kind of is evaporating. And a lot of people, like, they're struggling to make ends meet, so they got to work a lot. Like, you take every opportunity you get. So again, this puts busyness in our life and undermines our ability to be a Mary. It turns us into a Martha. This is, yeah, Mike, go ahead.
It's not many better with the church. Called an extra schedule
Yes.
to put on
Yep.
for people to serve.
Yep.
And you're serving, like you said,
Yep.
18 times.
Yep.
Because there's all this schedule and stuff.
Yep.
So it gets me that.
So I color code my life. I'm kind of nutty, right? So I do this on Microsoft Outlook. I put everything in the computer, and I color code everything. So purple is Toastmasters, blue is like family stuff, orange is my work, green is church stuff. When I see like 5 or 6 greens in a week, I start to get heart palpitations, okay? So, the day, and a lot of times I can meet people for lunch or coffee during the week, it's not a big deal. But if you're out 5 or 6 nights a week, plus weekends, that starts to take a toll on you and your family, and actually on your relationship with God. Because now you're doing a bunch of stuff, but you're too busy. You're like that couple I talked about who had 18 activities a week, which is just crazy. I mean, that's unsustainable. So the church can do it as well. We can get tricked into thinking that by doing works, we're actually being more spiritual. We're not. So I used to be, I told this in the past, I used to be a yes man. People would come to me and ask me to do stuff. Because I was trained by the military to do stuff fast, well organized and all that stuff. Even before the words were out of their mouths, I go, yes. Steve, can you yes? Because, you know, for me to wait for them to say what it was would be an admission that there's something I might not be able to do. That can't be true. I mean, right? And I would just fill my life up with stuff. I got too busy. Like at one point I was an elder in a church. I was doing Tyndale studies. I was running an Alpha ministry. I was mentoring people. I was involved with military Christian fellowship, none of which is necessarily bad stuff. But it's too much. And at a certain point I just had to step back from some stuff. So Mike hits on a key point, which is there's a danger that we can fall into, that we think that just because it's church stuff, it can't be like detrimental to our relationship with God. And the story in this story is that that's actually the case, right? What Martha was doing, was cooking for God. Like, that's not evil, right? That's pretty good, you know. If Jesus phoned me up and said, "Can I come to dinner?" I go, "Yeah, okay, you're in," you know, and I go out and buy all the best food and all the other stuff. But that's not actually that's not what Jesus was after at that moment. He wanted Mary to live in the moment. And we need to have time during our week and during our life when we're living in the moment and feeling that close personal relationship with Christ. What else? What do you think is happening in the course of the dialogue between Mary and Jesus?
She's learning a lot.
Yep. Yeah, okay, so Holly, I mean, you're all right, but Holly nailed it. She's building a relationship, right? That's what's happening. Her friendship is developing. And that's what it does. God doesn't just want us reading the Bible. He doesn't just want us going to church. He wants us to actually be investing in developing a relationship with Him. And that's what Mary has chosen to do in this story. So just to recapitulate then, there's a time for work and a time for other things. And in this particular context, now is not the time for work. That's the message that Christ is giving to Martha. Mary is spending time with Christ. She's getting to know Christ, and she's not letting the busyness of life distract her from. Because it would have been very easy for her to cave in and say, "Okay, Martha, I'm sorry. I'm your little sister. I'll go do this." Right? She could have done that. A lot of times we do stuff out of guilt. She could have done that. That's not what she did. She had her priorities right. Now, there's a lot of so what she's resisting is the temptation to wear this T-shirt. Right? That's what Mary's doing. Martha's got it on. She probably hasn't done up at the T-shirt shop and selling them for a profit, I'm guessing. But what Mary has done is resist the temptation to wear this T-shirt, which is Jesus is coming. Look busy. All right? She's not buying into that argumentation. Now, the interesting thing is, this idea of faith and works, there's been a debate going on in church for centuries. And the issue, there's a couple of passages which I'm going to flag for you here. Actually, they're there. Okay, that's good. I did flag it for you, see? Which speak about the issue of the proper place of works. So one of them is Hebrews 11. And Hebrews 11, there's the whole chapter basically talks, it's called the faith chapter. So, the faith of Abraham, the faith of the patriarchs, and so on. So he's talking about the importance of belief in God in those passages. Romans 3 also discusses this same issue, the importance of faith, and contrasting it to the idea of works. But the book that's kind of caused a bit of, I suppose, angst for some people is the book of James. And in James 2, 14 to 26, what is said there is that faith without works is dead. Now, when we read this chapter, we have to understand, or this passage, we have to understand that the author isn't saying that works are the prime reason we do things. What he's saying is that any works we do need to be out, the source for us doing them has to be out of our faith with God. That's, if you will, the balance. So yes, should Christians do good things? Yeah, they should, absolutely. It's evidence of their faith. So let's say somebody was a grumpy old curmudgeon, they were mean to their family, they were mean to their neighbors, they were cheap, they never thought of anybody else, and then one day they become a Christian. They read the Bible, oh my goodness, I love this, and they become a Christian. And then for the rest of their life, they're mean to their neighbors, they're mean to their children, they're cheap. You're going like, did something change or not? Because it looks like I'm on the same channel here. Like I'm getting the same image. And what the James passage is saying is, what you're doing shouldn't be just to try and complete a list of works. What you're doing should be as a result of the fact that you're now in this relationship with God. And the Holy Spirit's helping you to discern what good things you should be doing. So there is a connection between faith and works, but it's faith that has primacy, not the works. And in many of the world's religions, I think the issue is that that's not the case. Even if it's not explicitly stated, what you find is you will chase you're chasing a bunch of tasks around, rather than actually trying to have a relationship with a divine creator. And the book of James discusses this issue of faith in the context of works. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
One of the fundamental reasons that is the case is because they operate on a belief that the creator isn't knowable.
Yes.
Like we can't know God.
Yep.
So you have to run around doing X, Y, Z
To gain that knowledge.
appease
Yeah.
that God. You don't know if he's
Yeah.
going to be a king or not. You
Yeah.
don't really know him.
Yep.
Versus having a relationship, and out of that relationship,
Yeah.
the relationship's driving the action.
And the other thing, too, is I think we live in a society where everything has to be measurable, right? So if you work at Tim Hortons, then you need to process so many orders in an hour. Or like when he was at the wine shop, they were expected to sell so many bottles of certain types of wine per month. Everything has to be measurable. And the danger is we suck some of that into our spiritual life, which we're not supposed to do. That's just culture. I mean, if you went to Africa, it would be a completely different approach, or to Asia, it would be a different approach. And unfortunately, we pick up bits and pieces of our culture and we bring it into our faith. You think, oh, well, I haven't been to 7 events this week. I'm not being very spiritual. Well, that's not God's mass. That's not His economy. His economy, first and foremost, is about us having faith in Him and investing in the relationship the same way Mary did. So that's good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for that. So if you want to do some extra reading, Hebrews 11 to Romans 3, and you can contrast that with James 2. James 2:14 to 26 is the passage specifically that talks about that faith without works is dead. Now, if someone is a fairly new convert, in other words, it's a fairly new profession of faith, it may be that it takes a while for some of this to develop, and I get that. I've seen cases where it's been an instantaneous change. It's like a completely different person. And their non-Christian friends are going like, who is this person? That is not the person I knew yesterday. In other cases, that change is more gradual, and that's fine. Sometimes the Holy Spirit has to work through us more slowly, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, at some point, if we're truly people of faith, we should expect to see evidence in the works we do, some demonstration of that faith. So that's good. All right, so here's your challenge for you. Luke chapter 10, verses 38 and 42 is a passage about Mary and Martha. I'd encourage you to take a read through that this week if you can. If you're a follower of Christ, I'm going to ask you, are you being a Martha when it's time to be a Mary? Okay, so last week I had a lot of Martha time. I didn't have my 1 hour of Mary time I needed, which was just not doing anything. So I'm going to do it this week, and you can hold me to account. Okay, and ask me, how did that go? So find the time to be in the presence of God, and get to know God, and to build your relationship with God, just like Mary did as she sat in that room ever since she sat. If you're not a follower of Christ, I want you to know that Jesus does want you to know Him. You don't do that by running around doing good things. That's not how you come to know God. Now, oftentimes I'll hear people say, especially at funerals, he was a great guy, did a lot of good things, he must be in heaven. I'm going, sorry, you bought the wrong ticket. Remember we had this conversation the last week or 2 weeks ago? You know, the ticket to heaven is not purchased by the good works you do. They actually count for nothing. It's simply faith in Christ that is that ticket to heaven. So don't be running around trying to look busy. That's not the answer. And we often say at Catholic Church, there's kind of 3 steps to your faith in God. The first is to believe who Jesus said He was. Clearly, Mary believed that. The second is to repent. So acknowledge that you have sin in your life that separated you from God. And then the third thing is to make that commitment, that lifelong commitment to follow Christ and be an obedient disciple. Again, we see that in Mary. Mary's trying to learn as much as she can in the limited time she has with Jesus. Whereas Martha's busy, washing dishes and cutting onions, which was not really what perhaps she should have been doing at that time. What do I got? Why did you give me this, Holly? Oh, okay. All right. Good. Thank you. That's a good answer. I like that answer. So, I guess what I'd say to you is this. In the instances where I've seen people, Christians, fall into the trap of being human doings rather than being human beings, fall into the trap of being Martha's rather than Mary's, their religion sucks. Because there's no long-term satisfaction or benefit from doing all this stuff. Oftentimes, these people get resentful and bitter because they're not getting the appreciation they're seeking for doing all this stuff they're doing. It is a bad trap to fall into. Now, I'm not saying don't help out. I mean, you all know we need help in the coffee bar, right? Everyone knows we need workers for the coffee bar. We need people to help at the greeting station. We need people to help with things. Like there's lots of different things around here that need to be done. We're not going to pressure people into that. If you want to help out, whether or not you're Christian, we'd love to have you do that. But I don't want you doing it for the wrong reason, right? Do it for the right reason. That's the important thing. Otherwise, your religion will suck. Now, next week, we're going to look down, way down. Sorry, no, week after. Yeah, you're on next week, right? Yes. What are you doing next week? Oh, that's right, yes. Father's Day, yes. So Mike's on for Father's Day next week. And then the week after will be part 2 of the corporate series. Any questions or comments before, or any thoughts from anybody before we close today? Don't be shy. I don't have all the answers. I'll tell you that right now. Anybody have an experience where they just felt like they're getting worked to death in a church? Or was it just me? Okay, Galen, yeah? What were some of the sort of pressures or whatever that were? Yeah. Yes. Yep. Okay. So overly high expectations. Yes. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Another aspect is boundaries. So as a pastor, I'm very fortunate that I'm not paid. Here's why I'm fortunate. Because if someone comes to me and says, "Well, Steve, you have to do this because you're paid," then I can say, "Actually, I'm not. So I don't have to do it." But there is a type of thinking amongst pastors who are paid. They can fall into this trap, well, I have to do it because I'm paid. And what they end up being is a 24/7 counseling service, available day and night, and they basically burn out. So I'll tell you a story, it's a true story. So there was a pastor who fell into this trap, and he was basically spending every night of the week out, ministering to members of his congregation. And he used to do this with a friend of his, who was a member of the church. They would go together to do it. And the way it would work is his friend would receive the request, he'd get the address and the details, and then he'd give it to the pastor and say, "I'll meet you at this address, and we'll, this family or this individual needs counseling," and they would meet there. So one day, his friend realized that this guy was like way overcommitted, and he said, "Okay, we got a family that really, really needs you right now," and he gave him an address, and he opened it up, and it was his own address. So don't go down that zone, all right? You need healthy boundaries. Sometimes you just need to say, "You know what? I can't do this thing right now," and that's okay. Just pray about it. If you feel that's what the Holy Spirit's telling you, then that's what you need to say. And sometimes you do have to say no to things for different reasons. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's just, I got to keep a balance, right? Okay, and it's not about whether I get paid or not. It's about not doing works which I'm not called to do. And there's a difference between someone calling me and saying, "Hey, Steve, come do this," and me having a sense that that's actually what God is calling me to do, right? There's a big difference. So we have soup on, right? What is it? Do we know, Harley?
I don't know. Something with
It's a mystery soup.
Beef macaroni? Okay. And there's still fruit salad there, right? And what else? Okay, so there's tons of food, right? And yogurt? Okay, got a whack of stuff. There's some stuff in the men's breakfast yesterday there. You guys are welcome to help yourself out too. I'll close with some prayer. So the next event is this week is prayer week, right, Mike? Or is that the week after? We got it. So Friday is our next event. Yes, Galen. Yes, and what's her name? Betty. Yeah, Lord. What is the nature of? Are you able to share, or prefer not? It's okay. You don't have to. No. Okay. All right. So she's in the hospital. Is she here in Kingston? Okay. We'll pray. Lord, I thank you for our time together this morning. Thank you for this marvelous story about Mary and Martha and their interaction with Jesus, and it illustrates for us an approach we need to have in our relationship with you. I pray that every person here would have that Mary experience with you, and just take time to get to know you and build that relationship and get to push some of the busyness out of their life. We are the body of Christ, and the body of Christ cares for the body of Christ, and we do that. One of the ways we do that is through prayer. And Galen has brought up this prayer request for Olivia's grandmother, and Lord, we just pray for a peace on her. We pray for wisdom for the doctors and other medical staff who are caring for her. And Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to pray on her behalf this morning. Amen. All right, good to have you here. I think we're ready to eat, right? Yeah, we all good? You can shut me off.